All right, here we go. It is March 7th. Wow, getting into the third month of the year here. That's pretty scary. I don't know how it's going so fast. Anyway, happy to see you guys on here. Lewis sent me an email this morning for a video to watch, a YouTube video, and I was quite entertained by it, to say the least. And the reason, what it was, I'll give you a little background on it. There's a bunch of guys that are under Dory's crowd. Dory Friend she runs SEO Rockstars, and she took some people under her wing. Some of them I actually trained long ago, and they created this thing called the SEO Intelligence Agency, and it's a cool concept. They they set out to test everything, test theories, and prove that things are right. And a lot of it is on-page stuff, and it was really interesting and entertaining to watch them battle out. And they called this thing SEO Fight Club, and it wound up being just that, because there was some people in there that are pretty knowledgeable that were beating down their theories, and I found it very entertaining to watch. But anyway, the short of it, they discussed for almost an hour all these little variances that you could change in on-page content. I mean, they were talking about stuff like changing where a period is, or where a capitalization is on a page and all that. And what they came up with was every test they ran pretty much gave different results. And I was just laughing about it, because anybody that's operating in the SEO space at this point in time that doesn't realize the results are driven by user experience is so far behind the times. It's just funny to me that they haven't really caught up with that concept. From an SEO perspective, if you're not aware and focused on rank brain at this point in time, you really are missing a lot of the boat. When we look at the algorithm in general and the things that you can do on page and off page to affect your rank, it's kind of broken up into three things. And originally, I had kind of split them in thirds, thinking that there was a third based on each one, and I'm pretty much a firm believer that that's not true anymore at this point. It's much more heavily weighted on the user experience. But the three things is the on-page content, the actual content on your site. They call that on-page optimization. Off-page optimization, which is link building, basically. Getting reviews, getting citations, getting your brand actually mentioned on other websites. That's what we consider off-page optimization. And then the other third is user experience. So you've got on-page, off-page, and user experience. User experience is Google's rank brain. This has been in play since 2006. It's been collecting data on what users do. One of the first times where it kind of came up and reared its head was when everybody wanted to optimize for the search box, the suggestion boxes. And it was very clear that what was being recommended in the drop-down box was based on exactly what people search on. So that was kind of the first time it came out and people were aware of it. But I'm telling you, with no uncertainty, that is affecting the search rank itself, the actual search results page. So that's kind of the three things. I don't know if I'm sure they're not a third, and a third. I'm thinking that the user experience is more like half or better. I think the on-page optimization is probably the smallest part at this point. Link building, I know, still works, but when you break it into the third, you've got the three different categories. There's things within the category itself that are more meaningful than others. Like in on-page optimization, for instance, the most important, impactful thing that you can do on your page itself is your title tags. Google looks at the title tags as the label for the site. It's how they decide how they're going to categorize stuff. You know, it's like the title of a book. Most books are categorized by title, and then they're also categorized by author. So however you want to find them, they categorize things. That's what they are. They're a library. Google is nothing more than a library of content. So titles are the most important thing for the algorithm. Next, and this is probably more due to the user experience than the actual algorithm for on page, is the description. The reason I say that is your description, that's your chance to get somebody to click. When somebody actually clicks to go through, that means to Google that, hey, this site, the user experience is pointing to the site being the right one. Now, in email, that's equivalent to your subject line and your click-through, your open rate. If you've got a poor subject line, we know that gets poor open rates. So if you want people to open your mail and read your mail, you better have a good subject line. Same thing with Google. If you want your search listing to get clicked on and opened, you better have a good title and description. So that's how that all kind of plays in. But anyway, I thought it was really interesting. These guys spent an hour battling over testing stuff that was all these on-page things, and not realizing that every time they ran a test, they came up with different results, and it had nothing to do with the on-page stuff. It had nothing to do with what they were testing. It had everything to do with the fact that the search algorithm now is fluid. If more people search for something, if more brand signals come in, all that stuff's out the window. Google is going to lean on that versus the on-page content. So there's absolutely no way possible to get a good solid test on changing on-page things, trying to get a result saying, in SEO, this is definitive. If you do this, you're going to win. It doesn't work that way anymore. Really sorry. I wish it did. There was a time when it did, and those were great times, but they're long gone. So anyway, I didn't want to stir it up too much, but I did leave a comment applauding the one guy that was in there that was beating him up about it. And it was funny to watch them, you know, fight back against him when he was absolutely right. It was pretty funny. And Chris says, yeah, I'm in that group. You can't test purely based on page. Yeah, it's right. If you're doing that, you're kind of doing a futile type of effort. You know, I think that's great that they want to do that, but if you look at the reality of things and you want to really figure out, you know, where you should put your efforts in true SEO, you better start with the user experience. And I mean that as a base now. Whether it's link building or on-page optimization or content creation, you better be concerned with your users. And if you're not, you're probably not going to be very successful at SEO or conversion or business in general. You know, that's part of the reason I created the ACT program, was to teach you how to understand what your users want, how to create content that's going to grab them, how to make powerful descriptions that they'll actually want to open and read your email. You know, you've got a very, very small window to grab them. When they open your email, you've got a very small time to get them to read. You know, if you bore them, they're gone. If you just want to fill a page with words, that's not going to do it anymore. People are busy. They got better things to do. If you're not grabbing them with what's important to them, and if you're not hitting them hard, they're gone. They're never going to get to your offer. You're never going to get a chance to get them to do what you want them to do. So, you know, that's why I created the whole thing. how to form a big idea, how to grab their attention, how to pull them in, how to create demand and desire. If you're doing that stuff, that's what Google loves. They're going to see that. They're going to see the users respond and react to your content, and they're going to value it. That's going to be a huge, huge factor for SEO. So if you're not doing that, you're not doing your business a favor, you're not doing your search results a favor, and quite honestly, you might as well, do something else, because this probably isn't for you if you're not concerned with who you're trying to work with. If you're not concerned with your customers, probably should find something where you are passionate enough about it to be concerned with people you want to work with. So anyway, do we have any questions? I don't want to hit that too hard, but it's a subject worth hitting, though. It really is, because it comes back to the whole premise of the ACT program. It's all about, nobody cares about you. All they care about is what they care about. So you got to get focused in on that. You got to figure out what's really important to them, and gear your message to that. And that's what's going to make a difference. So Lewis says, thanks for sharing insights. Yeah, no problem. I was actually quite entertained. I was more entertained watching the chat on the side with the guys going back and forth fighting over the validity or non-validity of the content, the information. But it was quite contradictory, to say the least.
John, that builds on what you said last week.
Mm-hmm.
What you said last week when I said my biggest frustration I'm now having with Google is I ask for one question for a simple answer, and I get a bunch of gobbledygook, and that's my user experience.
Yep. And that's a poor user experience.
Yeah, so we still depend on Google, but we gotta eat past all the junk and try to get to the answer.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens with SEO. I mean, that's why Google doesn't like SEO. They don't like people manipulating their results, because, in the SEO world, we don't. I'm going to take myself out of that now. I'm going to say they don't care about the user experience. Typically, they just want to rank, and a lot of times they don't convert because of that. But they just want to know they can rank, and they can take down the beast and all that, and it becomes quite a macho game. But it doesn't make any sense. To me, I got to ask the question to anybody that's doing that is, why do you want to rank if you can't convert? Why put in the effort? It's about making sales. It's about building lists. It's about communication. And if you are creating an environment where that doesn't happen, what's the point, really? So anyway, again, I don't want to come down too hard on all those guys. I know they're all good guys. They've been in it a long time, but you've got to realize when stuff shifts. And we are in a major shift. I don't say that very often. There's been very few real shifts in SEO, but this is one of them. You guys are in the next shift, and I'm thinking this might be, and it's hard to say, because generally I can always see where it's going. And the way I see where it's going is I see where it's been, and I see what people are doing now. And I know, based on that, I know what Google's going to do next. Not just Google, all the search engines, really. And I predicted this was going to happen back in 2010. I started talking about it in 2011. And by the end of 2011, we were deep into development on the software program we called RainMaker to solve the problem. And that worked great, worked phenomenal for many, many years. And now we've shifted again. This is another variation of the same shift, and it's moving toward looking at mobile devices. You've got to focus. And here's a big problem. Most of you guys are not focused on your mobile sites. You know, you think you've got a responsive site, but a responsive site doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to be a good user experience. You know, just because your browser resizes to the device doesn't mean it's going to look good. It doesn't mean it's going to put the stuff in the right places to get people to lead through. That's one of the things at Traffic and Conversion. They were saying they stopped using the templates, the mobile responsive templates, because they were crap. You know, they would resize, and yes, they were technically mobile and responsive and all that, but the user experience was not good. So you've got to be very concerned with that. You know, the navigation is really important. They're using a thing called a sticky header. And a sticky header is just that. It sticks the header at the top of the mobile device, so when you scroll, you always have access to navigate. And from a user perspective, that's really important. Navigation is everything. Whether it's a mobile device or a desktop device, if your users can't navigate the site and find what they're looking for, they can always find the back button. And that's a bad signal. You know, when people are hitting the back button and clicking out of your site, that's not a good thing. That sends a signal to Google that, hey, people are on that site, they're not finding what they want, they're backing out. So that's something you want to be careful of. And when they're looking at mobile devices, for a long time, there was no difference in the search results on mobile versus desktop, and now there is. If you look at SEMrush, they actually have a tab for desktop and mobile. And it's amazing when you run your site, you open up SEMrush and you put your site in. I challenge you to click on the mobile tab and compare the amount of keywords that you rank for. You'll probably be shocked. Most people are a third or less ranking on keywords in mobile from what I've seen. That's a big trigger. That's a big indicator that you might want to spend some time focusing on your mobile stuff. You know, mobile conversion is just as important as conversion on a desktop. You know, and those people are using their phones. There's no doubt about it. If you just go outside, you know, just take a step out the door and look around, what will you see? Is you'll see a whole bunch of people doing this. You don't even see their faces anymore. You just see the back of their phone. And that's what's going on in the world. You know, it's crazy. I'll go out to dinner, and we'll be sitting there, and I'll look around the restaurant, and there's entire tables of people that are ignoring each other. They're all just looking at their phones. It's like, what the hell happened? You know, you've got people. You got people right in front of you. Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
Hey, about mobile, you've talked about that a couple of times the past few weeks. But so you're saying responsive sites don't necessarily don't improve the situation for mobile. You're talking about a sticky header at that conference. They're using that. Any other tips as to, because I can't figure out what else. I mean, but if the site is responsive and then you have a sticky header, what else? Are there any guidelines that people are using in the industry that you're hearing now?
Yeah, what happens a lot of times when you use a responsive template, and I've seen this on a lot of my own sites as well, when you go and look at it with a mobile device, it looks different. Sometimes it will put pieces out of order, and it's just kind of funky. So when you develop your site, make sure you're focused on looking at the mobile version of it as well, and do the tweaks to make sure the mobile version is looking like you want it to look. The sticky header is not just for mobile. They've been using that on desktop as well. And one of the things that they said was to always have 2 calls to action in your sticky header. So whatever it is on whatever page you're on, if you're trying to get somebody to do something like take an action, they say to have the sticky header to have 2 different calls to action in the header, which at first I thought, well, that's a little aggressive, but you have 2 different ones. One of them is to take the action. The other one is to talk about taking the action. And what I mean by that is if they have questions. It's a click here to contact us, or click here to if you want a consult. Like it might be here's the button to buy the thing. Here's the button to have a free consult if you want to get your questions answered. So they're both, the 2 calls to action are both for the same thing, but it's giving them 2 different options. Where most of the time when we do a call to action, it's just one option. It's, hey, buy or die.
Usually on a site, you want people to do one thing. If you tell them to do 10, and I think you've talked about this. If you tell them to do 10 different things, it's confusing and they leave.
Yeah, but see, the 2 things I'm talking about here, they're both in the same alignment. It's like, here's the button to buy, but if you have questions, here's the button, hey, I'll talk to you, I'll answer your questions, and then you can buy. So they're along the same line. It's 2 calls to action, but they're to the same point. They're to the same end.
Okay.
And that is what they had kind of pulled back the curtain on, and they said this is working really well, and they had the stats, the before and after stats.
Yeah. And
that's one thing I love about the TNC guys is they test the crap out of everything and they document it, and they really, when they talk about stuff, they've got proof in the pudding because they're actually doing it. These guys have a lot of sites. They've got a tremendous amount of traffic. So when they test things, they have a real test bed. For you and I, we test a sticky header. It might take us 6 months to figure out if it's actually going to work. Because the traffic numbers are not anywhere close to what they're doing. They're getting, million views a month or more on particular landing pages. So they can test things out in a day. They're like, oh yeah, that raised it, 7% or 10%. Let's try this. So within a month of testing, they could have 10 years worth of testing for any of us.
Yeah. Regarding mobile, SendGrid, I have a SendGrid account for one of my email senders. Okay. And Twilio, I think that's how you say it. Twilio, the company, just purchased SendGrid.
Yeah.
And my account rep, he sent me a couple emails. He wants to talk about they're offering SMS push notifications on that SendGrid platform. So I wanted to ask you regarding mobile, can you talk a little about, because I really don't know much about SMS. Sure. I like how it's a direct communication to the phone.
Sure.
A push notification to the phone. Can you talk about that in terms of online businesses? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? What do you think about it?
Sure. No, it's a really good idea. It's a phenomenal idea. It's another level of difficulty though. And when I say level of difficulty, what I'm referring to is now you've got to get an opt-in where they give you their phone number.
Yeah.
That's a harder thing to do. Getting an email is hard enough, but to get them to give you a phone number, that's a whole different level. So it's a really good thing to do. It's like one of the best things you're ever going to do is get that phone number. But it's a much more difficult process to do it. Like a normal landing page, what you're doing now and you're getting email addresses, adding the phone number on there is going to kill you. You've got to actually tip the scales in value to get them to give you the phone number. And if you're not doing that, you're requiring the phone number, you're killing yourself. So what you might want to do, here's kind of a way in, is get the email address first and then send a follow-up and say, hey, we're going to send out text notifications if we've got your phone number, because we don't want you to miss the webinar. And we're going to have a special discount code that's going out only through SMS. That's
Okay.
an offer that might get them to put the phone number in.
So get the email first, and then on a second or third email,
Yes.
make it in a very appealing offer and say, but the offer is only available through SMS.
Yeah. See the difference there of why they might now put their phone number in?
Yeah.
It's a big difference. And to give you a comparison of why SMS is so good and what it kind of compares to, in Facebook, everybody knows Facebook, right? You put posts out, you put messages on Facebook, and you're hoping that people see them, right? And normally they don't, or they don't respond. It's very, very unresponsive, unless you've got just like a magnetic following and they're going to answer everything you say on Facebook. It's weak at best. But when you take Facebook's Messenger and now you message someone, they almost always answer. You notice that? Have you ever messaged someone and had them not answer?
Right.
Never. It's like in the old days before we had all this stuff and everyone just had a landline phone. When you called, they answered. It was like you didn't ignore that. The phone rings, you answer the phone. We were all trained like dogs. Well, SMS is just like that. You get a text. I know you do it. You hear the damn thing ring and you pick it up. My wife drives me nuts. I mean, we can be eating dinner and the thing buzzes and she's got to get up and grab it. I'm like, really? You really think it's that important that we can't finish dinner? But we're trained like dogs to do that. The dinner bell rings and the dog is 100% focused on that dinner bowl. So SMS, because of that, it's highly responsive. It is like, it's the best connection you're ever going to get because no one ignores it. We ignore the phone now. The phone rings. Yeah. Do we pick it up? Probably not. Do we get email? We get 1,000 emails a day. Do we read them? Yeah, probably not. But we get a text. We're going to open it up. We're going to read it and probably respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so good.
So the guys in the industry that you know, the frequency can't be as frequent as email though, right? With SMS, because can it become intrusive if you're hitting them? You can't hit them 3 times a week, like maybe a few times a month. That's the...
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You do not want to abuse that. And you don't have to. Like with email, we know we send 10 emails, they're probably going to open 1. We have to keep sending them till we get a response. With SMS, you don't have to do that. When you send them an SMS, you can make the assumption they got it. They read it. If they didn't respond, they weren't interested. You can just take that as a common assumption. You can't do that with email. You send 1,000 emails out, you can assume that maybe 5 people read it. So we need to send another one and another one and another one. We got to send 10 to know that we got, 20% of our readers to even look at it. That's why we have to send so much email. And it's like a snowball. The more that goes, the less people look at them. And it's just a snowball negative effect with email. That's why I said earlier in the call, if you guys aren't just doing the most powerful openers, subject lines, your email's not going to get read. I can assure you. Even if people know you and they love you, if you don't have a subject line that says, I got to know what's under the hood there, they've already seen stuff from you before. They've got 50 other things to choose. Which one am I going to open? Because they're only going to open so many a day and the rest are going in the junk can. So you've got to be the one they open, and that's going to be purely by the subject line. So that's really, really important that that you figure that out. And it all goes back to ACT. If you look at what's important to them, you'll know what to put in the subject. If you put something that's really important to somebody in the subject line, they're going to open it. They can't not open it. But if you put something that's just blah, or something you say to them every day, like, hey there, how's it going? Who cares? When they got 50 other emails there that are grabbing and pining for their attention, who cares? If they can look at your subject line and say, who cares? You're not there. It's really just that simple. I mean, look at yourself. Which emails do you open? That should be a clear indicator. You open the stuff that's important to you. It just is what it is. It's sad but true. We can't just send nice emails anymore. Like, hey, it's a great day. Yeah, that's going to get opened. And it is. It's sad. It's very sad. But you gotta think, these are not your family and close friends. If you've got a family member or a best friend or something, you can send them any subject matter you want. They're going to open it, right? But these are not your family and your friends. You might want to think they are, but they're not. They're getting hit. They're getting clubbed over the head 100, 200, 500 times a day with the same emails you're sending. So seriously, unless you grab them, you're done. You're just in a tank of bloody water. So, all right. Anybody else here? Any other questions here? Directions you want me to go? Feel like I'm kind of on a rant and rave here, but
no. But John, you're on the right track in my regard too. Remember, you said something about claim, proof, benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been going through claims now, and fine tuning my thing, because my results have been wishy-washy.
Okay.
So I'm cleaning that up and going back. Where are the errors and whatever. But also, an interesting point you made earlier, which was really cool, was I started a small blog. There's a thing called Stock Gumshoe. What is it? Stock Gumshoe. It's a gumshoe stock, something like that. But he's a guy who goes in and he evaluates various people selling stuff, mostly trades. Like, this is the greatest thing in the internet. It's gonna bust Amazon. The little stock nobody knows about. That kind of BS stuff from Agora. But the bottom line is, I get in there and I'll comment, and I go through and I have my handle there is called "From the Office of the Trade System Investigators."
See, that's an attention grabber.
And then what I do is, like, okay, there's a guy named Tom Gentile, and he goes on with this big elaborate Hollywood production. And I went and sat through 3 hours. His video is about an hour long. I watched it 3 times. I broke it down. I went into the Office of the Investigators, and I wrote out exactly what his trading system was all about. Does it work or doesn't work? And then I did the same thing with the guy named John Paul Tudor, something. He's a big hedge fund owner, and he did a video about 30 years ago. He'd been trying to kill it. He'd been going around the internet, buying up the rights and prosecuting people who get a hold of it. Finally, I got a hold of it, showed up on YouTube. I watched it. I went through, I did the same thing. So what I'm coming to is what you're stating about attention grabber number 1, proof and claim and benefits number 2, and then number 3, the backup to it, to what you're stating in the SEO thing, is give the people what they want, not what you think they want. So thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. With the one thing about that, with the claim proof benefit statements are absolutely awesome, but you want to use those where they are made to be used. What a claim proof benefit statement is for is It's to either create a new belief or to switch an existing belief in favor of wanting to purchase your product. So once you grab their attention and you create demand and desire for your product, the next thing that's going to come along, and this is the thing that's going to kill the sale, is an objection. And every objection is based on a belief. And the belief might be as simple as, well, I tried something like that in the past and it didn't work, so I don't believe that that works for me. That could be a belief that they have. So the claim proof benefit statement is to reverse that belief and get them to believe that they really can do it, and get them on the right track, eliminate the objection. So that's a fantastic formula for doing that, because everybody, believe it or not, everybody has beliefs. The beliefs are already there, and if they are not there, they get formed really quickly. Sometimes the belief is, well, that's too good to be true based on my past experience of other things. When something sounds that great, usually there's a hitch, or something hidden that's going to pop out and bite me. That might be the belief. So the claim, you come across and you address it directly. You hit it head on. You say, I know what you guys are thinking. This probably sounds too good to be true, but it's not. And then you make your claim that why it's not, why it actually is true, and then you back it up with the proof points. Because when you say it, when you make your claim is not really strong. All your claim is hearsay. So that's why you back it up with 2 proof points that come from the industry or third-party source, something that's verified outside you. It's not just you saying it. It's almost you're just saying something that you heard from somebody that's credible. Something that's been, in the media, or, like Crest Toothpaste uses this. They kind of strew the whole thing out in one simple sentence. They say 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest. And they've already talked about the benefit of the white teeth, so they kind of put it out of order. They put the benefit first, and then they're reversing well, why wouldn't the other toothpaste work for me? That might be their belief, but then you throw in the claim and the proof. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest. Now, they recommend Crest because they obviously think it's the best, right? So that's not you saying, or Crest coming out and saying, yeah, we're the best. It's 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest. Very, very powerful. Because again, it's not just hearsay. It's not your opinion. It's opinion of dentists, that the dentists matter. They're the authorities in teeth, right? So when 4 out of 5 of them say something, that means something. That 4 out of 5 can't be wrong. So if I've got a belief that they are, I'm probably the one that's wrong, right? So now you have adjusted the belief in your favor. Now the objection is gone. Now there's no reason for them not to make the purchase. So it's an awesome, awesome tool. So anyway, that's where you want to use the claim proof benefit statement. And it works like magic. The other thing too, when you're doing that, when you're doing the claim proof benefit, when you get to the benefits, if you 3-dimensionalize them, you'll make them exponentially more powerful. So, the 3-dimensionalizing, that's so you can hear it, see it, feel it. And, any of you that have been through the training, you'll know how to do that. But it's the hear it part is easy. You just say it. You say what the benefit is. Like I use the example a lot of a woman. She's put on a few extra pounds and she's going to her high school reunion. Doesn't feel really good about herself. So she's looking for a solution. So we'll sell her a diet pill, right? And the thing we're going to do, we're going to 3-dimensionalize the benefit here. So the first thing is we're just going to say it. Take the pill and lose the weight, right? That's a way to say the benefit. The pill is going to make you lose the weight. So hearing it, kind of goes off her bat, like, like water off a duck. To get it to really stick, we want her to feel it. We want her to see it and feel it. Because if you think about it in the real world, what does a used car salesman want you to do? They want to put you behind the wheel. They don't want to talk price. They don't want to talk anything until they've put you behind the wheel so you can feel it. You can hear it, see it, feel it. So after we say it, she's heard it. Now we want her to see it. So what we do is we say, remember. Because now what we're going to do, we're going to pull up an image that's in her head already, and we want her to see it. And you say, remember how you used to look in the mirror when you were 20 pounds lighter? Remember how good you looked? She knows what that looks like. She can pull that image up in a snap. So now we've just visualized it for her. She heard it. Now she's seen it. Now we want her to feel the outcome. So we use the word imagine to forecast her into the future. We say, imagine how you're going to feel when you walk into the room and all the heads turn and everyone notices how great you look. That's hear it, see it, feel it. When you bring your benefits to life like that, they're going to be exponentially stronger. So this is all about weight and strength. If you're trying to convert, if you're trying to sell that product, you've got to get them to want it. You've got to get them to demand it. And you've got to eliminate their objections, and that's how you do it. Claim, proof, benefit, three-dimensionalize the benefit. You've just locked in the desire even deeper, and then make the offer, and then they'll take the offer. There's no reason not to. But if you're not doing that, if you're just making cold offers without that desire, without that demand, without that creation, without the elimination of the objections, without three-dimensionalizing the benefits, what your offer is going to do. It's going to fail. And you're going to feel bad about it. You're going to think, I've got this great thing. I've put my life's work into it. Nobody wants it. Well, that's easily fixable. So, all right, we got a question on SitePop. Chris has been running it for a few weeks. Keywords that were low, 80 to 100, some that were page 1, page 3. No big move up or down, seeing some up and down. How long does it typically take? It really depends on the industry. If you look at how many searches are going on for particular keywords, if you use SimilarWeb on the competitors to see how many searches they've got on their actual site, that will give you an idea of how hard you have to hit them. If you're doing localized keywords, we've seen localized keywords move pretty quickly. We'll see that, within a couple weeks. If you're expecting monster results within a couple of weeks, it's going to take a while, because this is Google's algorithm. It's their ongoing thing of gauging things and seeing what's popular and rewarding it because of that. So I've got, like, in my case, I put a generic keyword in that I was nowhere for. It was client getting system. And it popped it up real quick, and then it dropped it back, and it's been bouncing around on the first page, and it goes anywhere from like number 3 to number 9. And it's been doing that like for the last month. It's been up and down. And I think it's because there's other people heavily competing for that same keyword. There's not a lot of search, traffic for it, but I think the ones that are pining for it, they're competing for it fairly hard, because it's a buyer keyword. Client getting system. You don't want a client getting system unless you're ready to buy one. That's a very meaningful keyword. But like I said, if you're using all 12 keywords, you're spreading your searches out across 12 keywords and multiple brand variations. So if you've got more competitive keywords, what you can do is you can put less keywords in. You can have SitePop just focus on maybe 3 or 4 keywords, and it will hit them a lot harder. We've got some clients that we're using this on generic keywords in national industries. Like there's a semiconductor company, and we've got 3 projects going to, I believe, 3 to 5 keywords each, all to the same site. We're hitting it really, really hard to be able to move the needle. But this is a company, they're getting, hundreds of thousands of searches a month. So by us doing that, we're not showing up as being odd at all. I wouldn't do that to a brand new site. But a site that is big, existing, got a lot of search traffic, you can get away with that. So, okay, Long Island SEO Agency. Yeah, that term, there's probably quite a number of SEO agencies in that area that are probably have been playing this game for a long time and fighting pretty hard. So just give it some time. What you can do too, you can repeat the same keyword in your deal. Like with client getting system, I have that in twice in the campaign. So I repeated the keyword, and that way it kind of diluted the others and it puts more pressure to the one. So try that. If that keyword is really one that you want to get to the top, put more instances of it into the control panel, and then let that run for a couple weeks and see what happens. But the keywords are, the searches are spread out over the month, so keep that in mind and give it a chance to do its thing. Any idea on the iOS version? I keep my fingers crossed on that one. We actually have it already, and it works perfectly. We just need to get it published through the Apple Store, and that's where we're running into a bottleneck. We've got the download for the Mac version, so you can put it on like Mac desktops and laptops and all that. But the one for the iPhone, that needs to be distributed through the Apple Store. And everyone I've talked to that has done that say it's a major pain, and you got to go through all kinds of hoops and hassles, and that's what we're in the middle of. But Android works perfectly. Windows desktop works perfectly. The Mac desktop works perfectly. So we've got all of those devices. We actually found if you go onto some different sites, you can buy Android devices really, really cheap. And you can install a thing on them and just run it on the Wi-Fi. You don't need a cell service. You can buy the phone, just turn the Wi-Fi on, and let it run like that. You can also do the same thing with tablets. There's a lot of people dumping old tablets because they're updating. They update to the newest, latest, greatest. So you might try like eBay or even Amazon, stuff like that. And you can pick those devices up for, really, really cheap, really inexpensive. So, all right. Okay, does it matter what IP? It really doesn't. We've got some people that are running, multiple devices in the same office, and that's perfectly natural to have that happen. So there's not a problem with that. I wouldn't run like 100 of them, on the same IP. With the phones, when you have the mapping turned on, so it's got the GPS location, it knows exactly where you are. So, if you've got 100 of them in the same room, that's probably not too good an idea. But, if you're talking about 5, 10, something like that, that's probably just fine. Not an issue at all. Okay, let's see. Yeah, with the devices, we pretty much, I looked at the device map the other day, and it's awesome to see how it's grown. We've got these things, it's like just shredding across the country, all the different devices showing up. So, some of them are going to be on static IPs, some of them are going to be truly mobile, and they're going to be going from Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi. Like, you might be in a Starbucks on their IP, then you move down the street, you're on somebody else's IP, and so it really is going to look very, very natural because it's all real user devices. So, There's a handful of the agencies that, you know, they're going to put some, you know, in the same office and all that, but that's perfectly fine. You know, there's a bunch of devices in the network now, so we've got plenty to balance it all out. Okay, 12 in the office, all same class C, different IP. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Nothing at all wrong with that. I was in a shared office some years back. And I think we had one network in all the offices shared the same network. So there was literally probably 500 computers all running on the same IP out of the same office building. And it never, you know, it's natural for that to happen. There's a lot of office buildings that share IPs. So not out of the ordinary at all. And think about this too, all of the devices, they're all going to be doing very unique things. It's not like we're, you know, running some scam tool on this that's, you know, repeating the same thing and, you know, looking very suspicious. It's not like that at all. This is all exactly what a real user would do, completely randomized. So it's very safe. All right. Anything else before we wrap up here? I will give you guys a couple of updates on the site pop for those of you that are interested. We are improving the agency version. So anybody that's on the agency version, we've had some of the agency users come back and ask about different types of upgrades, like more control. Like, can we send more searches to a particular project without creating, you know, multiple projects? And we're actually going to allow that now. So there's a calculator in there. It'll show you how many devices you would need on the same project to get that many searches for any particular project. And we're also on the agency version, we're going to allow more than 12 keywords. So if you wanted to run a big campaign for one customer, you'll be able to do that now without running multiple projects. So cool stuff. Yes, that's another thing. He just asked if you can create or connect more than 3 devices on a project in the agency version. And yes, you can do that now. So you'll notice when you log into the agency version now, there's that calculator, and you can allocate more searches to a particular project as long as you have the right number of devices connected to it. So that's a cool feature, cool add-on feature for the agency users. You know, it gives you a little more control to hit things harder and do a lot of variation. So, all right. Anybody else? Any other last stuff here before we wrap up for today? All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you all for being on here. I appreciate the participation. All right, we will see you guys next week. And keep on plugging away. Keep on building your traffic and converting it. We'll talk to you next week.